guys, Lori here. I'm actually here to start a new reading vlog. I actually have to change the plan of attack for this reading vlog because I forgot that one of the blog tours I'm on is due this week and I don't have the book read. So my original plan was to read a couple of Owl Crate books, and I think I'm still going to do that. I'm just going to do that during the week, I think. But the book I'm going to read is the sequel to The Quiet. I think it's called The Quiet the sequel to The Quiet You Carry. I don't know the exact name of it, but it's over there. But that's the book that I am going to read. I'm gonna start reading. It's not that long, so I should be able to finish it either today or tomorrow. But it's the sequel to the first book. I really like the first book. It follows this girl. No, I can't remember her name because it's been a bit. But it follows this girl, and she was kind of dealing with like the foster care system after her dad and her, after she was taken out of her dad's care. And it was actually a really interesting read, a very emotional, impactful read, and this is like the sequel to that read. And it has a little bit more to do with like the court case dealing with her dad. So really excited to read that. That's gonna be the book that I'm going to start. I'm gonna see how long that takes me, honestly, and then I'm probably gonna figure out what this reading vlog is gonna be, how long this reading vlog is going to be. But yeah, so that's kind of my plan of attack. I will be honest, this month of August has kind of sucked for me, like entertainment wise. I've really been distracted so much by like all the political stuff happening in the world, and it's really taken up a lot of my watching time, like a lot of it. And I really have noticed it's been kind of affecting me stress wise. So I really try to be very like educated on what's going on in the world, but I think I really need a break. So I think I'm gonna limit going on Twitter this week. I'm going to limit watching news and political stuff just because I need like a mental break. Also, this is kind of like potentially my last week home before we do start work. If we start work, there's a lot going on. This month has been very chaotic with school and with other stuff. So I've just been kind of like in like a holding pattern. I was kind of going through my video I make, like what I've been loving lately, and I really don't have enough to make a video for you guys, but I think I might just add it to like the September one, because I really haven't been doing a lot other than watching a lot of political stuff, and that's really not that entertaining for you guys to hear about. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to finish eating, and then I'm going to kind of dive into the book that I'm going to read, and then I'll come in and kind of update you guys. But yeah, that's my plans for today. It is Saturday. It is going to be a dreary day. Very wet and rainy. We are getting the after effects of Hurricane Laura. I live in New York, and Hurricane Laura was like down here, but we're getting kind of the tail end of it. So I anticipate a very wet and rainy day, and hopefully tomorrow will be nice and sunny. But I'm gonna go finish eating, do a few things, and then I'm gonna start reading, and I'll give you guys like an update when I read about 50 pages. Bye guys. Now that I like wound up reading for a little bit, I wound up reading about 2 chapters. So I actually can like give you guys a summary, but I want to at least tell you guys what the book is called. It's called, hold on, let me see if it will tell me. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Quiet No More. That's the name of it. And the lead character's name is Victoria. I did read the other book this month. I read it this month. I wound up really liking it. So this is a companion book, but I would actually call it a direct sequel. Normally in companion series, you kind of follow another character. That's not the case in this book. You do follow Victoria again. She has graduated. She is living on her own. She's going to college. Away from the foster care system. Like, she's not in foster care anymore, but she is going to college. She wound up getting involved in this like advocates for abuse group, like domestic violence group, and one of the shelters in their town is shutting down, and they're fearful that because that was a big place of where people with these issues went, they want to raise money. So she's kind of involved in that, which is one plot point. And then someone from her father's past, an aunt that she doesn't know about, it's literally in the first 2 chapters, has revealed themselves to Victoria. And this aunt wants to meet with Victoria, and she's a little bit leery about it. And that's kind of all that I got. But it does deal with the aftermaths of abuse. It does deal with PTSD, relationship stuff. It's very clear what her relationship is like with Cale. It also talks about finding new friends, but still being friends with your old friends, which is always complicated in college. I did that in college as well. But it's like kind of like, kind of like a little bit of like a playing, like getting your feet wet. Also, Cale isn't where she is. Cale, her boyfriend, is still in high school. So is her best friend, or I think her best friend is in college in Washington, D.C. So she's kind of a little bit isolated, but she still does see her stepmom and her stepsister, which is interesting. So I've read 2 chapters. I am going to try to work out. That's my plan of attack. I think that might actually help me be a little bit more calmer, which is my goal. So I'm going to go do that. And then when I come back, I'm going to try to read a couple more chapters of this, and then I'll kind of update you guys again. Bye. Hi guys, Lori here, just checking back in. It's actually pretty late. I did actually wind up going for a second bike ride later in the day, right when it like stopped raining. It's supposed to rain again, but I was able to go for a bike ride. And I'm finally able to keep watching Avatar, which means I kept caught up on my episode. I just wanted to say this as a note. You're probably going to watch this out of time, but I was heartbroken to hear that Chadwick Boseman died. It like really hit me in the emotions, because he was wonderful. He was a joy, and I really just am bummed. I'm heartbroken for his family. I'm heartbroken for his fans. I'm a fan too, but he had so much to do with his life. Like, he had so much to do, and it's just sad that his life was taken from him due to cancer. But I did want to say that I also, in that interim, I did wind up doing some reading, and I am on like 32% done in my book, which I'm really liking. It definitely has a lot of elements. Like, Victoria's definitely dealing with the aftermath of the abuse of her father. There's also other elements of like her being involved in this club that's about sexual assault, or like the aftermath of it, and she's trying to help get funding for a local shelter. Then there's also another element that's kind of affecting her getting the money for the shelter, which is like a little bit of an interesting twist. It reminds me a little bit of Veronica Mars, I'll say that. But I'm really liking it. There's also some drama between her and Cale, but I still do really like that relationship. And this book is definitely different because it's like a long distance romance in some elements, so I'm really liking that as well. But yeah, so I'm going to go read a little bit more, and then I'll come back and update you guys. Bye. It's 8:03. I do end up getting up to chapter 12 in Quiet No More. This definitely took a very different turn than book 1. This book is very much dealing with like the aftermath of her and the abusive situation she's in with her dad. But it's also dealing with the trial that will potentially happen. But then she's also dealing with like the campus group she's involved in. And this is really talking a lot about the Me Too movement, which is really interesting because I think that movement is very fascinating, and I find it to be a very interesting topic of conversation. There's also a lot of drama between her and Cale right now, and that's largely due to the fact both that they are in a long distance relationship, but also like a lot more about Victoria. But I do like that she's kind of expanding her social circle. I said this in book 1, like she was very much an isolated kid other than Cale and her other friend. So I like that she's kind of meeting more people, and this book is really diving into like other abuse situations that happen. So not just Victoria's. Like, I like that because I think it's showing the audience that abuse doesn't just happen to girls. It happens to a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. There's also a lot of other situations that are addressed in this book in reference to Victoria's dad and Victoria's aunt that we didn't necessarily know in book 1. I do wish, I mean, it's still a little bit early. I'm about 50% done, that we would have at least seen we are seeing like her stepmom and her stepsister, but I do wish we would have seen the person from the foster home a little bit more, because I really did like that character, and it's that her and Victoria had a very good relationship. So I'm going to read about one more chapter, which is about like 23 more minutes according to my Kindle, and then I'm probably going to relax for the evening and watch a little bit. I told you I wasn't feeling my best yesterday. feeling much better. I think it does have to do with that fact that I'm really am turning off social media and not going on CNN anymore. Not that I'm not like interested and fascinated by it, but I just need like a mental break, and I think that that's going to be a good decision because it's just piquing my anxiety. So yeah, so I'm liking that. I'm gonna go read one more chapter, and then I'll check in with you guys if like anything changes. Bye. Sorry here, I just came back from my yoga class. I think because it's been such a weird week, I'm gonna actually run up to town and get some lunch, which I don't know if I'll often do on Sundays, but I'm feeling a little bit motivated. I also do have to do a lot of filming when I come home. I really want to finish the book I'm in the middle of. I'm in the middle of the sequel that I was telling you guys about previously. I can never remember the title of it, but I'm on 60% done with that. I'm really, really close to the end, but I do have a nice to-do list to do later today, but it's sort of imperative that I finish that book first. I also did decide that I am going to listen to the audiobook of I'll See You in a Crown by Leah Johnson, which I got on Hoopla. I do physically have a copy, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time to read it, and I do need to return that to the library. I really don't know what I'm going to read after the book I'm currently reading. I have like a couple of different ideas, but honestly, this week's been just a little bit weird. So I'm going to give myself a couple of minutes. I'm going to let my Kindle charge, and then I'm probably going to run up to town. And when I come back, I'll probably check in with you guys. Hopefully by then, I'll be done with my book, and I can give you guys my final thoughts. But until then, talk to you guys in a bit. Bye. Here, just checking back in. It's about 1:33. I did wind up running up to town. I did wind up getting through, like, as I was walking and walking back. I know you shouldn't walk when you read, but I do. Come at me in the comments. That's how I read. Normally I do have an audiobook, but I really wanted to get through this book because I forgot about the tour date, as I said previously in this vlog. But I have about 10% left. It definitely is very different from the first book, I'll say that. And like very different. I'm really liking it. I think it's challenging a lot of things and talking about a lot of things about rape culture, about the Me Too movement, about believing victims. And the hardness of standing up and saying things, and especially in the situations for her, because she feels a lot of guilt, Victoria. But there's also like a lot of elements. There's like long distance relationship. There's long distance friendship. There's, a club. It's sometimes a little bit hard to be in Victoria's head at points because it's not always an easy place to be. And I found myself throughout this book getting a little bit frustrated with her as a character. But I'm seeing it. Like, I'm understanding why it had to be that way because she is in a very, very hard situation, like, a lot of different ways. One line that Connie said, which is the stepmother in the first book, was like, you had no one to show you what a healthy relationship looks like. And I think that is something that is really challenging to Victoria right now. So I'm really curious how the book's gonna end. I'm gonna actually go for a bike ride because it's not that hot. It's actually kind of nice today. It's not hot. But I do want to start listening to I'll See You in a Crown, which is by Leah Johnson. But I do want to actually go finish that book. So I'm gonna come back, finish that book, and then I'll kind of check in with you guys. And then I'm gonna kind of spend the rest of the day filming a bunch of stuff. So, because it's the end of the month and I have a lot of stuff I have to film. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'll come back with you guys and check in when I'm done with my book. Bye. Lori here, I'm back. I did actually want to finish in Quiet No More by Nikki Barsles. That is the second book in the Quiet You Carry series. Quiet You Carry was the first book, Quiet No More is the second book. I wound up really liking the second half of that book. I thought it was like a very focused book on like the Me Too music and the after effects of abuse. I really, really liked it. I like how it was kind of set around a court case. You don't get a lot of like YA novels set in college, but that is one. And it definitely was a companion book that followed the same exact character. You did see the same characters again, but it very much was like a sequel book, which was interesting. I wound up really liking it. I liked the elements of like the court case. I like how she kind of was getting involved in like a group on campus, and I thought that was really interesting. When I was in college I went to a mostly female college. It's Wells College in upstate New York, and my school was like the second ever co-ed class that they had, and there was a lot of like gender issues that year that came up around not like assault, but like talking about assault. In like, I remember there was like a very, very specific conversation that happened. So the stuff that was happening in this book kind of reminds me of what's happening in the Me Too movement and also what happened at my college. Very, very interesting, very, very compelling. Um, I liked what they did with the main romance in this book, and it was super interesting. So I wound up giving that book 4 stars. I also did wind up starting listening to You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I'm really liking the audiobook. I'm about an hour and a half into it. But basically, what it is you follow this girl named Lizzie, and she is a music prodigy. It's set in Indiana, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And she's a music prodigy. She really, really wants to go to music school. And she gets accepted to college, but she doesn't get number one, she doesn't get accepted into the orchestra that she wants to, and she didn't get she didn't get the scholarship that she wanted to be able to go to this college because it's a private college and it's super expensive. So she winds up deciding to run for prom queen because if you win prom queen, you get a scholarship to college, and that's the only way she can kind of think to kind of go to college without her grandparents, who she lives with, sacrificing their house. So I'm really liking this book. I think it's so fun and so charming. Yeah, I don't really know much about it. I just know that there is like a prom queen element. She's gonna be campaigning. But it's really, really fun. I like her brother a lot. Her brother is just fun. There's like a lot of like pop culture references. It's just quite fun, and I know that people are really, really liking it. I do actually have a physical copy from my library, but I also got the audiobook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bunch of my R&D stuff. I still have to film a lot tonight, but I think I'm going to wait a little bit to do that. But I am going to do like my Instagram stuff and all of my other like non-filming stuff first so I can listen to my audiobook. So yeah, I'm going to go do that. And when I'm done with all my audiobook stuff, I'll kind of come on and let you guys know my thoughts. Hopefully I'll be able to listen to like an hour more of it. That's my goal for tonight. But check in with you guys in a little bit. I haven't chosen my next book yet either. So when I'm done with all my organizing and cleaning and filming, I will decide on my next read. Bye. Here, I actually wound up finishing most of my errands. I still need to film one more video, but I'm probably going to do that later in the week because I still have all of tomorrow for September and for August, and who knows what books I can finish. But I did decide I am going to pick up A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. This is a book that I am on a blog tour for, but it just kind of tickled my fancy. It's like an alchemist themed novel. I actually have another middle grade series that's high on my TBR, which is the Diaries of Nicholas Flamel, I think. So if I like this book, I might actually wind up ultimately going back to that one. But this is from Wednesday Books. I literally have read one page. So I'm going to go read the first chapter. It's supposed to be like 28 minutes, according to my Kindle. And then I'll probably give you guys an update before I go watch some Good Witch. But yeah, I'm going to go read this. And then if I feel like I have a little bit of an understanding of this world, I will come back and update you guys. If not, I'll check in with you guys tomorrow morning. Bye. Here it is. The 31st of August, the last day of August. This is very exciting. So last night I did wind up reading about 2 chapters in A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. I've really just started it. I know right now it takes place in Normandy, I think. I have to look at my book in a minute, but it takes place, it's like a book that's set in the past. There's an alchemist family that Bee is involved in, and her mother is like very much, and her daughter kind of work together. But her mother is starting to kind of ice her out of the process, hoping that the mother will get credit for the discovery and not the daughter. The mother has started to act a little bit bizarre. She like sent away someone that her daughter really likes, a possible love interest, to somewhere else, and now she's possibly talking about sending her to England, which her daughter is not very, very happy with. That's all that I know so far. I only read the first like 2 chapters of it. I'm intrigued enough to keep reading. I do like alchemy as like a concept for sure. So I'm going to go do my nonfiction reading for the day. I'm still reading, so let's talk about race. And then I'm going to do my Skillshare class, and then I'll kind of check in with you guys and see what's up. So, talk to you guys in a little bit. Hey, it's Lori here. I'm back. It's about 1:03. I did actually wind up listening to quite a bit of I'll See You in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I think I have like 2 hours left of my audiobook. I've been listening to it on double speed. I am really, really liking that book like a lot. I think it has a lot to it. I think that there's a lot of situations because Leah is a queer Black woman that lives in Indiana, but she's not out, and the reason she's not out is because she's trying to campaign for homecoming queen, And in Indiana, that is not a thing. Like they have very strict rules about who can run for prom queen and prom queen. They have very, very strict rules. So she's kind of boxed in a little bit of a way. So she's campaigning to be like this prom queen so she could get a scholarship to go to a college. But so much other stuff happens into this book. Like, there's a lot of racial stuff that happens underneath the surface. There's a lot of LGBTQ stuff. There's a lot of situations that, like, as me, as, like, a white woman, are, like, that is devastating. And I would have no idea how to deal with those situations, like, myself. So I'm very curious how this book's going to end. There's a lot of friendship stuff in this book, like, a lot of friendship stuff in this book that I'm just like, girl, you need to, like, get some new friends because this is not healthy for you. But I'm really, really liking it. Like, it definitely is going to be like a 4 or 5 star read for me. So happy I picked up the audiobook, because it's a very, very quick listen. But yeah, it's quite fun. If you have not picked this book up yet, highly recommend it. I also did read up to chapter 5 in A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. I think I'm saying that name right. But this is also like a very different type of read than I've ever read before. It has to do with alchemy, and you follow this character named Bree. She's living in France at the start of this book, and her mom is an alchemist that is trying to develop the process to create the Philosopher's Stone, which can do a lot of things, like, transform stuff into gold, but it can also cure a lot of illnesses. And her mother, midway through this process, kind of shuts her down because her daughter is too involved in the process and she doesn't want to have to share the credit with her daughter. But when madness takes over her mother, she has no choice but to go visit the father that she's never known in hopes that she can finish the antidote to save her mother's life. So now we're in England, and I'm, like, captivated by this book. Like, I'm very, very intrigued by it. I'm really, really liking it. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm actually going to go outside and try to read for a little bit with some of my YouTube videos as background noise. So that's kind of my plan of attack. I also did, sorry, this clip is a little bit all over the place, but I also did wind up reading another chapter of So You Want to Talk About Race. I read chapter 4, which was really, really interesting. I really recommend that you check out some anti-racist literature. I'm going to put together a recommended reads video later in the fall when I read a few more, because I've only read one book right now, or 2 books, I guess, that I really feel like I could recommend to you guys. But it definitely takes you outside of your own experience, and I think that that's really, really important. Kind of like reading books set in following characters that you're not. I just think it's important. And I think it really allows you to open up your eyes to another person's experience. It may not change your opinion on things, but it will at least give you some compassion about what their experience is if you've never lived that experience, but also, like, if you've never been around that experience. So I just think it's really, really important, and I've been I've been encouraging myself to do that. I also started a new Skillshare class that's a little bit shorter, which is from the creator of Wit and Delight, about creating new projects. And I always am inspired to create new projects, so this might give me, like, a funnel point. But yeah, that was a little bit of a longer update, but I just wanted to say that I really am enjoying The Golden Fury, really am enjoying So You'll See Me in a Crown, both solid reads. I'm going to go back to reading, and I'll update you guys when I can. Bye. Right here, I'm back. I hope you like my new Umbrella Academy t-shirt that I got. I don't think I showed it to you guys on my last clip, but I did actually translate. That's not what I meant to say. I'm sitting outside as I read, catching up on some videos. But I did end up getting up to chapter 7 in A Golden Fury. I'm about 30% done with this book. I'm really liking it. It's been a while since I read, like, a pure historical fiction fantasy novel. I can't remember the last one that I read, to be honest with you. But I'm liking this. It's definitely a slow-paced story, but I like the alchemist elements. I like that we have Bee as the main character, and I think she's very different. She's also in the middle of, like, kind of a hard situation because she's with this father that she doesn't know, and she's trying to make a Philosopher's Stone to save her mother. Her father's trying to make a Philosopher's Stone for other reasons, and they're kind of competing against each other, and Bee is trying to do it for her mother, but also to get credit for herself. Like, they're all trying to complete this thing to get credit, but they're all doing it for their own motivations. And then you have this young character, this young boy that is in the book, which is not her love interest, but someone that I'm just finding their relationship dynamic super interesting. But I'm really, really liking it. I always say that. I always say I'm really liking it, but I'm enjoying it. I think that if you're looking for a fast-paced story, this may not be the book for you because it's not super fast-paced, but I'm having a hard time putting it down. So like there's not like a lot of like action, and if you're looking for like a romance story right off the bat, this is not the book for you. But it's one with the world that I'm liking. It's very, very atmospheric. Like we're in kind of like a castle. It's kind of creepy. I'm vibing that right now. So I'm going to go back to reading and I'll update you guys when I can. Bye. Here I'm back. It's about 3:45. I did want to reading a couple more chapters in A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. Still really, really liking it. It's definitely like the one thing I'm enjoying is it's like it changes environments a lot. Like we started the book in one city, then we kind of changed to another one, and now we're kind of changing to another one. There is a character in here named Dominic who is dealing with a lot of like religion stuff, and that's not something I often see in a lot of like YA novels. Like sometimes you're dealing with like moral issues, but this is strictly religion issues, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the dynamics in Cursed, the TV serial with Catherine Langford. But I'm liking that, and again, like your character's in a very, very unique situation. I'm fearful of one element of this book. I don't know if it's going to kind of go in that direction, but overall, I'm really liking it. The pacing has kind of picked up. She's still very adamant that she has to get this antidote for her mother, but then there's kind of another plot point that's been added that I don't want to spoil that will kind of hatch up like the anxiety a little bit and like the stakes a little bit, which I am liking. But yeah, really liking it. I'm gonna go back to reading and see how far I can get before I have to go to dinner, and then I'll update you guys when I'm done. Bye. Lori here. I'm back. I did when I'm going to eat a little bit of lunch, and I read a little bit more of A Golden Fury. One plot point I keep forgetting to mention is there is a big discussion of creating the Philosopher's Stone, and everyone that tries to create the Philosopher's Stone, it does kind of make you go a little bit mad, as seen in The Mother and other characters subsequent as this book goes forward. But there is more in perilous circumstances that are kind of becoming prevalent in this novel that is making B and other characters kind of consider making the Philosopher's Stone for other reasons. But the insanity side effect of making this is just as dangerous. So I'm really liking that. It definitely does have a sharp like contrast to like mental illness and like addiction, because that's kind of what it reminds me of a little bit. I remember this is like I really, really like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I always thought of Willow's addiction with dark magic as kind of an addiction. So this is kind of reminding me of that like a little bit, but the symptoms or like the after effects is like you go crazy. So I think that that's really interesting, and I don't think I've ever read a book that had that prompt that like you doing something will make you kind of lose your mind. I don't think I've read a lot of books in my lifetime, but I don't recall that being like a central point in any of the books I've read recently. So my goal is to keep reading that. I want to give my Kindle a little bit of time to charge. It's one hard thing about reading on a Kindle is like I can't tell you what page I'm on. I can only tell you the percent I'm at, but I think right now I'm almost at the 50% mark, which means I'm reading it actually pretty fast because I started that book this morning. But yeah, so I'm going to go read a little bit more, and then I'll come back and update you guys when I can. Bye. Lori here. Sorry, you're getting so many angles of my backyard. There's not a whole lot of places to sit, but I keep trying to sit where the sun is not, so sorry. But I did end up getting up 50% done in A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. Still really liking this book. It definitely has taken a bunch of different directions. Like, I kept thinking it was going to be one thing, and then it kind of took another turn to be... So it's like a very, very... It's a very, like, diverging path book. Like, there's a lot of different paths. So if you like books that kind of change settings a lot, I would recommend this. There is no... The love and romance elements are not the focus of this book, like, at all. Like, they have hints of it. There's two main male leads that you kind of focus on as well as B. But there's a plot point that's been introduced, and the villain is one of the characters, I would say, that, like, is a little bit devious. His name reminds me so much of a character from a certain other book series, and I just can't stop thinking of him as like a villain because of what his name is, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Because, like, I don't know if he's necessarily a villain, but he has the name of a villain from another popular series, so I'm just like, am I just imagining you to be a villain because I think you are, or just because your name is that? So, but I'm gonna go back to reading. I really think I could possibly finish this book today. It's not that long. So I'm gonna go back to reading and I'll update you guys when I can. There is still a lot of discussion in reference to like making the Philosopher's Stone, and that's kind of Bee's adventure towards the end. But she has a lot of reasons now why she has to make the Philosopher's Stone, even though it can be detrimental to her health. We also did get a little bit more female-led characters in this book. Really, the whole book has been Bee, her mother, and then that's kind of it. So I did definitely notice that there was very, very few female characters in this book. So we did actually get like another one, which I was liking their interactions between each other. But it's been a while since I read a book that had so many few female characters. So that was a notice that I made. But again, I guess because like it is so far in the past, and alchemy is very, very much a male art, and it's not a very, very popular, sometimes seen like charlatan, but there's just not a lot of female characters in this book. But so that was another note that I noticed. So I'm gonna go back to reading, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Bye. Hi guys, Lori here. I'm back. I just wind up getting up to about 85% done in A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. The last half of this book definitely was super fast paced. Like, there was a lot of stuff that happened, and I feel like it could have used a little bit more time because we started this book with like a very, very small cast of characters, and now we have like a lot of characters in this book. Or we did for like a little bit. So I felt like the pacing was so fast, and I felt like I just wanted it to slow down a little bit to kind of flesh itself out a little bit. There was also, I read 2 books recently that had a very, very similar trope, and I read them pretty much back to back. So that trope is one that I sometimes struggle with a little bit, but I liked it in this book. I'm curious how a book ends. I'm probably not going to finish it tonight. I have about 2 on my Kindle, but I'm liking it. I think the ending was there was a section of this book that was like so fast, and if it is a series, I'm definitely gonna have to reread that section because I feel like I missed a little bit, but still really liking it. I definitely have found a cinnamon roll type character that I always strive for in my reads. He definitely exists. This was a very, very slower paced start, I'll say that. The romance elements are not the foundational plot of this story, but I am really liking it. I'm intrigued enough. I'll say that. Like, I won't say this was probably going to be a 5-star read. It probably will be between like a 3.5 and a 4-star, but still really, really liking it. So I'm going to check in with you guys tomorrow morning. This is September 1st. I mean, well, this is July 31st. I was hoping to finish this today, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm back. It's officially September 1st. It's back to Hogwarts Day, which is when the train would go and get the kids to go to Hogwarts. Yeah, this year I think it's going to be a little bit different in regards to that because of all the drama with J.K. Rowling, but it's still a holiday that I thoroughly always think, oh, maybe I'm gonna go to Hogwarts today. It always reminds me that like I am going back to work and I am gonna go back to school next week. It feels a little bit different this year because everything is still so up in the air. I hope we can come. I hope I can go back. That's my hope. I hope I can go back and we can find a way to be safe and sound. But I don't know. So last night I wound up watching a couple of episodes of The Good Witch. I'll be honest right now, it's just such a lighthearted show and I just kind of need that. So I'm going to kind of focus on that for a little bit. It's quite a bit. I also do want to start watching Avatar again. I have to watch episode 2 and 3 maybe today. But it's definitely like lighthearted. I'll say that. Like, just a sweet show. It's very, very like, my dad watches it. We discussed it. But I also do want to finish 2 books today. I'm going to count them on my September reading, but A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho and I'll See You in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Those are the 2 books that I'm in the middle of. I am intrigued to see how The Golden Fury ends because it had some pacing issues in kind of the middle of it. So I'm curious to see how that's going to all wrap up. It's pouring raining out, which is not how I like to spend my yoga days, but I am actually drive to work. I haven't drove since COVID, so this will be entertaining, I should say. But yeah, I'm gonna go get ready to go to yoga. Hopefully I'll read a little bit in kind of like the interim, and then when I come back, I'll check in. I'm probably not gonna be able to do my Skillshare class today or anything else today, which I tend to not do on Tuesdays anyway. But yeah, that's my plan. So I'll check in when I make a little bit more reading progress. Bye. Here I'm back. It's about 1 o'clock. This morning got so away from me. I went to yoga. I came home. They made an announcement that the DOE school system is taking 10 days to like kind of like get ourselves together. So it was good news, but I still have to report on Tuesday, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about that right now. So yeah, I'm kind of waiting to like make my official like determination of how I feel. Right now, I'm not that thrilled about it. I'll be a little bit honest, but hopefully it will work out. But because we do have kind of a start date next week, I'm going to kind of take the next couple of hours and kind of plan a little bit more. I have about 5 weeks prepped. I still have like an hour left in my read, and I didn't wind up listening to any of my audiobook because I didn't wind up going for a bike ride because it was very, very wet and rainy this morning. I did wind up going for a walk, but because of everything that happened with the schools and the decisions and stuff, I kind of just talked to a friend for a couple of like things like district. But yeah, that was kind of what I did. I'm going to go do a little bit more planning, and when I'm done with that and kind of ready to go for my bike ride, I will. Sorry, here I'm back. So I did actually wind up doing another like 2 weeks of planning, which went actually better than I thought. Tomorrow, when I actually do start planning, it's going to be the harder unit to plan. But we did get note as of right now, this moment, when I'm filming this on September 1st, that we are going back into a building next Tuesday. So that means summer is really officially over. I'll be honest, it's gonna feel a little bit weird. I haven't been in New York City since March. This is the longest I haven't been in the city, so it's gonna be a little bit weird. But I am looking forward to some parts of it. I'm just hesitant, I'll say that, about a lot of other things, but I'm excited. So I'm gonna go for a bike ride because I didn't get to go for a bike ride today. It rained in the morning, I was talking to a friend, all these other things. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm going to tackle the end of A Golden Fury. That is my major goal. Do some Instagram stuff and check back in with you guys. So, and then when I'm done with Golden Fury, I'm probably gonna wrap up this reading vlog. So, I'm gonna go do those things and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Bye. Laura here. I'm actually here to wrap up this reading vlog because I did wind up finishing A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. I actually wound up liking this book. I thought it was a very solid and fun read focused on alchemy and females, like girls in that time period. Sorry, that was a weird way to say that. But I thought that it was interesting, like, how it changed settings a lot. Sometimes I get a little bit lost in details like that, but overall I found it really, really fun. I thought it was a very, very fast-paced novel, like, all the way through. But the end, like, 100 pages, I would say, I felt like the pacing was really off. And a lot of stuff happened so quick, and I just wish that she would have slowed down a little bit because a lot of it happened very, very fast, and I was like, wait, what's happening? But I did really, really grow to like the side characters. I said this in one of my clips. There wasn't a lot of girl characters in this book. There was like maybe like 3 or 4, so I thought that like that elements could have been a little bit more fleshed out. But overall, I wound up really, really liking it. So during this reading vlog, I wound up reading Quiet No More, which was another arc that I had for another tour that I am on, and I finished A Golden Fury by Samantha Coho. And yeah, so now it's September 1st, so I did finish my first book in September, which is so exciting. But I'm gonna go choose my next read and like kind of start my next reading vlog, and I'll check in with you guys in that one. But let me know what are some fall reads you're really excited about. I think my next one's going to be a mystery thriller, which I'm really excited about. So I'll talk to you guys for my next reading vlog. Bye.